Hello, I'm David Hughes. Welcome to Your Perfect Body, the podcast of the esoteric teaching community.
Today's selection is entitled The Immortal Soul, where we continue our commentary on the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. By the way, the edition of Bhagavad Gita that we are using is called Bhagavad Gita As It Is, by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And the reason we use this particular edition, which is the original 1972 Macmillan edition, is that this is the best translation and commentary on the Bhagavad Gita we've ever seen. After spending many years in India, trying to come back to the West and find material in English that is accurate and complete about Vedic philosophy, was very difficult. So I was very happy when I discovered this edition, and I think you would be too. You can read Bhagavad Gita As It Is at asitis.com. So with that, let's begin. Yesterday we finished with the verse 216, which is a very important verse, so let's go over that again. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent there is no endurance, and of the existent there is no cessation. This seers have concluded by studying the nature of both. So, in plain language, things that are temporary don't really exist. Why? Because in the beginning they don't exist. Then they come into existence at a certain point in time. Then they endure for a while. And then again they go out of existence. So, did they ever really exist? For example, you may wake up from a dream of, let's say, being chased by someone. And in the dream you're actually frightened. And when you wake up your heart is pounding and the dream really affects you. But yet when you finally wake up from the dream, you say, it was only a dream. Why? Because it has no endurance. It doesn't persist into the waking state. Similarly, the material existence, at first it doesn't exist. Then it comes into existence and endures for a certain time, and then again goes out of existence. For example, the material body. 100,000 years ago, this material body that we have now didn't exist. Then it came into existence, and for a few short years, maybe 100 years at the most, we kick around this planet, and then gone. So did this ever really exist? Did this material body ever actually exist in this world? Well, maybe for a flash, a flickering moment, and then it's gone. So just like the dream, it doesn't persist, it doesn't endure. So can we really say that it exists in the full sense of the word? No. No. Similarly, of the existent, there is no cessation. Real existence is eternal. Real existence never ends. And this seers have concluded by studying the nature of both. We can do the same thing. We can study the things that come and go in this world, and we can study the things that stay the same. And really the only thing we have to study that always stays the same is consciousness. Our consciousness is constant, and our personality and our identity is constant, regardless of the changes of the body, regardless of the changes in the situation in the world. Who we are remains constant. Therefore, it endures without cessation and is eternal. So if we study the difference between the things that we have within our frame of reference that are eternal and those which are temporary, well, there we have the difference between spiritual and material. So if you want to know what is spiritual, it is that which never changes. We have relationships with people that change. Their feelings about us, our feelings about them, change all the time. Sometimes we love each other, sometimes we have arguments. Are these real? No. What is real? What's real is the relationship that we have with ourselves and the relationship that we have with God. We should love ourselves. Why? Because we're beautiful. We're beautiful because we're conscious and we're eternal, and our purpose is love. Similarly, God's purpose is love. Therefore, the relationship between the soul and God is the one thing that is permanent, that you can always rely on. There's always going to be love there. That's never going to change. That relationship is eternal. And other relationships, which may come and go, or which may drift between different states of attraction and unattraction, those aren't real. This is the vision of the seers of truth who have studied the nature of both. And this is an ontological study, as we've been pointing out. You should look up this word in a good philosophy book and get comfortable with it, because we're going to use it a lot. Ontology means the study of our frame of reference, the study of our body of stories about the world that explains how things came to be and how they are and how they're going to go. So we all have an ontology, whether we realize it or not. Our ontology is our background of information about the world. What causes what, how things are going to result from different actions, and so on and so forth. So when we change our ontology to include spiritual phenomena, then suddenly our whole view of the world changes. Instead of being the absolute against which we measure everything, the phenomenal world simply becomes a temporary place of existence. The material body simply becomes a vehicle, like a car. You can get in and you can get out. So we are encouraging people to get out of their car and walk around a little bit. Check out the spiritual existence. It's really nice out here. So let's go on. The next verse. Know that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. Well, what pervades the entire body? Consciousness. You can feel everything that contacts your body from your head to your toe. So consciousness is the symptom of the soul, and no one is able to destroy that. Well, you may say, well, what happens if I get knocked out? Or if I'm in an accident and I'm unconscious? I'm unconscious, I don't have any consciousness. Well, actually you do, but the consciousness is separated from the senses of the material body. Therefore, apparently, we have no consciousness. But then again, we wake up and the consciousness is there. So no one was able to destroy that consciousness, which is the same consciousness as you had before. Similarly, when the soul leaves the body at death, apparently the body becomes unconscious. Why? Because the soul leaves. Anytime the soul is separated from the body and mind, then the body apparently becomes unconscious. Well, the body never really was conscious. It's the soul that's conscious. So when the soul leaves, then the body loses consciousness. The point I'm trying to make here is that if we think consciousness is only material, then if we become separated from the body, we will apparently lose consciousness. Actually, we are simply separated from the senses. The bodily senses are only one kind of consciousness. How about spiritual senses of the spiritual body? But if our ontology doesn't include a spiritual body, spiritual senses, spiritual activities, and so on, then anytime we're separated from the body, we'll think we're unconscious. You got that? So part of our program here in the esoteric teaching is to develop spiritual consciousness, spiritual senses, and a spiritual body. And how do we do that? Well, we'll get into that later. Right now I'm trying to lay the philosophical foundation for our spiritual activities. Let's go on. Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore, fight. What does that mean? Well, remember, Krishna and Arjuna are on the verge of a huge battle. So he's urging Arjuna, don't worry about if your body gets destroyed.